Why it's coming out now is we wanted to wait, to get through all of the legal proceedings, the criminal trial, and it's four parts, and it spans over 30 years of, pop culture, his life. So it took some time, to say the least, to put all of this together.
It's an important story, and you could just tell it with all the public material. Mm-hmm. You go further, you've gotten your hands on some extra new material people are going to see for the first time, including this video. Any journalist would want to know how you got it.
You guys don't need to worry about me getting revenge from Diddy. I've got 3 moves that make sure he'll never be able to come after me or my family. First, I personally reached out to the victims' legal teams. The real reason he's not getting out is those buried cases behind the scenes. I provided legal funding for 7 victims who had been silent for years and brought in the top criminal attorneys in the country. Second, I bought up every potential post-release business deal he had lined up. I planned this 2 years in advance, so by the time he got sentenced and still had hope of getting out, every partner had already cut ties with him. Third, I don't just have evidence, I've got backups. This is an entire minefield that's been buried for 20 years. I uncovered every secret from the last 30 years. With testimonies from the victims, we interviewed over a dozen people he tricked, threatened, or violated. You think that's harsh? No, he destroyed other people's lives for decades. I'm just making sure he spends a few extra years in prison for it. I'm not afraid of his people, not afraid of his threats. I know he's still in there fantasizing about a comeback, but the truth is, he's never coming.
Documentary that they believe that Diddy was very jealous of Tupac. And they pretty much go through everything from the quad incident and Tupac believing that Puffy was behind it, like he said.
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proved things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows. So every time he say it didn't happen, or that's the only thing that makes this become an issue to everybody. Because you seen what I said in the Vibe article. I basically bowed out and was going to go ahead about my life. The next issue, that wasn't even the next issue, because them cowards waited about 4 issues before they got their story together. 4 issues later, half of New Yorkers commenting on me getting shot. And before, they was all like, we didn't see nothing. In the first issue, we did, Vibe viewers. Nobody seen shit. The 4th issue, when they came back with a reply, everybody knew what I did. They knew what I said. I was acting. Who gets shot 5 times in acts? Oh, I didn't get shot 5 times in their vision. I only got shot once because they found the bullet. The police found it, but now they the cops. Now they doing detective work. They found the bullet. Oh, you found the bullet, huh? So what is this other shit in me then? What was the doctors talking about? What? Can you explain these other holes in me? How'd I get gunpowder all over me? That insulted my intelligence. So yes, I did say Thug Life was there. Yes, I bowed out, all of that. But when they said that,
the documentary continues to unleash revelation after revelation, cementing itself as one of the most penetrating deep dives ever made into Diddy's public and private legacy. While he now serves a 50-month sentence at Fort Dix Federal Prison in New Jersey following convictions tied to unlawful interstate conduct, even as a jury dismissed the most severe allegations against him, public scrutiny has only intensified since late 2023. His former partner, Cassandra Ventura, filed a widely publicized lawsuit alleging long-term mistreatment. This triggered a wave of additional civil claims that remain unresolved. Claims Diddy has consistently and firmly denied, as the spotlight around his name refuses to fade.
We're even hearing from Greg Kading, the detective that worked on Tupac and Biggie's case in this documentary. He is the investigator that did that proffer agreement with Keefe D way back in 2008, where Keefe D alleged that Diddy tried to offer him $1 million to take out Tupac and Suge Knight. And Tupac's trial with Keefe D is coming up very soon in early 2026. And we know that Diddy's name has been dropped at least 200 times during these proceedings.
Suge and Puff created the atmosphere for both of those guys to lose their lives.
I honestly, when I look back on it, if he trusted Sean more, it would have been better. But he didn't trust him as much as the way Sean says they were best friends after he was dead. No, I didn't see that during the time we were working.
This documentary goes far beyond rehashing past allegations, injecting fresh claims into the conversation, and reigniting media frenzy in the process. It is bolstered by rare access to private footage recorded in a New York hotel just days before Diddy's arrest, filmed by a videographer he personally commissioned. The footage shows him conferring with legal counsel and confronting the pressure of nonstop coverage, offering viewers a raw, behind-the-scenes glimpse of how the headlines were actively influencing and destabilizing his public persona.
Why it's coming out now is we wanted to wait, to get through all of the legal proceedings, the criminal trial, and it's four parts, and it spans over 30 years of, pop culture, his life. So it took some time, to say the least, to put all of this together.
It's an important story, and you could just tell it with all the public material. Mm-hmm. You go further, you've gotten your hands on some extra new material people are going to see for the first time, including this video. Any journalist would want to know how you got it, but it is Sean Diddy Combs in the heat of this, right before the arrest for the trial we just discussed, in private moments, talking to his lawyer, cameras running.
He also underestimated that with every celebrity, you do have different claims and some are completely unfounded. But I think that some of these lawsuits, there's receipts. Mm-hmm. And there's footage and there's voice recordings. And I think that for a man, it's also very interesting, for the culture of hip hop, so many artists record themselves, and they probably, when they were, recording themselves in 2005, never saw the year 2025 and how accessible that media would be to actually make a case for things. And I think that's a big part of the gumbo of Sean Combs. And
it's rare to see such open, unguarded conversations take place ahead of formal charges, as discussions of this nature are normally kept strictly confidential. Yet the presence of a videographer has led legal experts to suggest that critical protections may have been unintentionally weakened. Diddy's representatives later told NBC News that the recording was never approved and that they are unaware of how Netflix acquired material, emphasizing that the individual filming was bound by confidentiality agreements intended to keep all content private and restricted.
The documentary, I'm waiting the whole time for Aubrey O'Day to reveal some major story that happened between her and Diddy. 3 episodes in, she's basically just talking about Diddy in a very general way. It isn't until the 4th episode that Aubrey reveals a witness walked in on Aubrey O'Day completely inebriated with Diddy doing things to her, as well as a second man who they refer to as a light-skinned, tall man. Details are very explicit and not anything I could share on here. This witness revealed that it was 100% Aubrey O'Day. It was really uncertain in watching Aubrey's reaction and kind of resharing this story whether or not she fully recollected the situation. He says it couldn't have been her choice to become inebriated because that was never her issue. She never really drank a whole ton. The earlier parts of this series, Aubrey does reveal these series of emails that she got from Diddy. They were all in very sexual nature, in a very sexual tone. He's basically asking her to come over and do certain things with him. It's these very domineering emails where he's basically setting the tone that he's the boss. She says that she felt very uncomfortable about those emails, and 6 months later, she was fired.
The series further elevates perspectives from Diddy's inner circle, spotlighting former collaborators, artists, and close associates who provide rare insight into his ascent and reach. This includes Aubrey Day from Making the Band, who recounts her personal experiences to deepen the narrative and expose the layered realities of operating within the orbit of one of hip-hop's most dominant forces.
We were renegotiating Bad Boy. We had gotten over CCNY. It looked like the coast was clear. We were renegotiating with Arista. We were about to get a step up in the money. I had 25% of the company. I didn't know why he needed to get that back from me and then give it back to me again. I didn't understand that. That's like a trick. Like, okay, here, I gave it to you, now give it back, and don't worry, I'm gonna give it right back to you. I didn't want to give it up. So he came into my office one day unexpected, him and Kenny Marsalis, they had it planned out. Kenny had the briefcase with all the stock certificates in it. And Diddy had the bat, not like I'm going to beat the shit out of you with the bat, but he had the bat like, man, we got to do this. This has to happen. I didn't feel I was going to get beat down in that office, in all honesty. I got people that can jump out of the shadows in a minute. I wasn't threatened by him. What I was messed up over was the fact that I started this company with you from day zero, and now the one solid thing that you told me I had, you want to take that back and do a return to me on that at this critical time that we're renegotiating and getting a step up on the contract. When he told me it was about all of that renegotiating and that I should trust, I did, begrudgingly, angry, upset. It wasn't right. I did it. He got the stock back. I went on, tried to get over that, kept doing my job, doing what I had to do, delivering everything. And once again, I was caught up in the job. I forgot all about it. And next thing you know, we had the snafu. I was fired. And he just said, oh, okay, bye. And since he had never given me the stock back, he never said that he would pay me anything or give me anything. He just avoided me all these years. Not only did he avoid me all these years, running high and low, I went on and started working with Mary, who the three of us started out together.
Singer LBSH, who previously had a close relationship with Kim Porter, reflects on what he observed during that time. Former security associate Roger Bonds alleges he witnessed aggressive behavior toward Cassie, noting that his early impression was shaped by limited exposure, adding further weight to the narrative. Bad Boy Records co-founder Kirk Burrows claims he once held a 25% stake in the company before being pressured into surrendering it under intense intimidation, a decision he says derailed his life and left him isolated and struggling as the label he helped build surged into a global powerhouse.
But I didn't know a lot of other shit was going on with Death Row, with Pac's money, Pac wanting to leave, and it could be some other shit that was going on. But they still created an atmosphere for that. You understand that East Coast, West Coast bullshit. When Suge was trying to use the New York guys to, okay, man, come on, let's make some sense of this shit. And have a meeting and sit down with the New York guys and ask for a representative for Puff to come on. Puff was mad. You see now why Puff was mad. Everybody know now why Puff was mad. That he didn't want nobody to come to the meeting because Suge was playing Pay Daddy. Suge was in there playing Play Daddy with Justin. It's crazy. I said, well, how you gonna be mad at Misa and the East Coast, West Coast? And now we see why he was mad. We don't know if Suge sent Puff those pictures years ago. We don't know that. But that's why Puff didn't send a representative when Zipman was asking him, man, let me represent, just let me know. Nah, man, F that. They trying to get a black distribution company, a publishing company, all that for hip hop artists and music. Puff and Jay-Z ain't gonna have shit to do with it. And look who get rewarded behind that. So, to answer your question, I think the atmosphere that they designed and made up led to what we know was the East Coast, West Coast war. And both of them had some responsibility in that.
Burroughs later pursued legal action, but the case was thrown out due to timing limitations. Even as he says, he continues fighting other unresolved claims. The episode then shifts into a hard-hitting breakdown of the legendary Bad Boy Death Row clash that defined an era, revisiting the East Coast, West Coast divide that reshaped hip-hop. As death row rose with figures like Dr. Dre and Tupac, Bad Boy countered with Biggie, Faith Evans, 112, and Mod Dollery. Yet insiders stress a striking takeaway. The rivalry wasn't driven by the artists themselves, but intensified behind the scenes by label leadership, with Combs repeatedly named as a central force who allegedly escalated tensions until they boiled over, reinforcing long-standing assertions that executive power struggles, not performers, pushed the feud to its breaking point.
You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you.
Yeah, he looks at me.
Okay. When he looks over at you, and then Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
in the back seat or something.
Yeah. What do you see happening inside of their car?
I seen a bullet going Suge's head. I thought he was dead. You thought he was dead.
So Orlando across Dre.
He leaned over on the window. We rolled down the window. Pop. They would drove on my side. I would pop them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
I'm not gonna go into details on that one. Keep the streets on me. I ain't gonna go into detail on that.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and read from the book.
Well,
so
let them buy the book then.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna read this passage. The shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command. Keep your hands where I could see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the backseat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first skinned Suge in the head, and I thought that mother was dead. I had heard some stories, supposedly that Suge used Tupac as a shield when the bullets started flying, but that's some bullshit. Suge was already wounded, and he was the one that got touched. As the rounds continued flying, I ducked down so I wouldn't get hit.
Basically, yeah.
The white Cadillac arm came out the back seat and started letting off.
What went through your head when you saw that?
They shot my name.
KPD's 2008 proper agreement, he alleged that Diddy's friend Zip Martin is the one that gave him the weapon that was used to take out Tupac. KPD told the investigator Greg Kading that Zip Martin had a special compartment to keep this weapon in his car that he drove to Las Vegas. And in this documentary, we have Greg Kading confirming that Zip Martin did drive the same type of vehicle that KPD alleged to Las Vegas this night. And then during this documentary, we heard from the former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burroughs, who alleged during this time, Diddy had him hiring a whole bunch of people and getting cars to drive to Las Vegas. And he is now very curious into why Diddy wanted to do this. And he said, in his opinion, he now believes that Diddy was behind.
The documentary argues that the rivalry between the labels rapidly spilled beyond music into a far more dangerous arena, portraying a climate where street affiliations and outside influences allegedly became entangled with the industry. This placed Diddy at the center of a web of controversial connections through associates tied to New York's underground scene. Expert commentary and recorded accounts presented in the series describe how key figures later claimed responsibility for the tragic 1996 Las Vegas killing of Tupac, a narrative reinforced by analysis from former law enforcement investigator Greg Kading and first-hand interviews from individuals close to the case, ultimately delivering a tense, insider-driven retelling that frames the era as a volatile collision of fame, power, and unchecked rivalry rather than a conflict driven solely by the artists themselves.
So there was the rumor that after Pac got Puffy gave Zip $1 million that was supposed to be handed over, and Zip ended up keeping it. And I remember when I interviewed TK Kirkland, who was actually roommates with Zip at one point. They were that close. He actually said, yeah.
The Fed said that too.
He said that actually happened. Well, the story that has circulated was that after Tupac got, Puffy allegedly gave the money.
I heard
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to him.
But thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it. If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire.
So thank God. If this is a true story, I'm not saying yes or no, but if he would have gave them the money, it'd have been a murder for hire and Puff would be locked up.
Davis went on to claim that Diddy had offered financial incentives to outside figures to go after Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, who was riding alongside him during the infamous Las Vegas shooting. According to Davis, that promise was never fulfilled, citing Knight's survival and the alleged disappearance of the funds through an intermediary who later died, adding yet another dark, tangled allegation to an already volatile chain of dispute accounts that continue to surround Diddy and intensify the controversy explored in the documentary.
Burroughs even speaking on the situation with Biggie, how he was the one in charge of planning this London media trip for Biggie that he was supposed to be on the night that he was actually unalived. Kirk Burroughs claims Diddy is the one that canceled this trip and Biggie did not want to go out to Los Angeles. And Kirk Burroughs feels like Diddy should be responsible for what happened to Biggie. What Kirk Burroughs alleged next is what's really chilling. He said something that we have heard alleged many times, and he said that Biggie was actually leaving Bad Boy Records shortly before he passed away. Kirk Burroughs alleged that Biggie already signed the paperwork to get out from underneath Bad Boy. Then Kirk Burroughs went on to allege that after Biggie passed away, Diddy came to him and told him to change the terms in the contract that Biggie signed. And he claimed that he was so calculated that he told Kirk Burroughs to just switch out the middle pages. That way on the last page, Biggie's signature would still be there. That way Diddy could allegedly keep racking up money.
Burroughs claimed that Diddy pushed Christopher Wallace, known worldwide as Biggie, to travel to Los Angeles to promote his album despite clear hesitation, a decision that ended in Biggie's fatal shooting in 1997. He asserts that Diddy effectively guided him into a high-risk situation and later misled the public by portraying the trip as Biggie's own choice rather than directive, a charge that sharply challenges the long-standing version of events Diddy has publicly maintained.
How was it, man, for Biggie to go to LA so soon, knowing that Tupac got killed 6 months earlier?
The award show season was up. We had to go out there to participate in that. We had records that were nominated. We were a budding, launching company that already launched and we were successful. We could not go. But Biggie did have an inconvenience. He had a car accident. I think it was in Brooklyn, maybe downtown Brooklyn. He had a broken femur at that time. And he was recovering from that. Big sized person, could not really sit comfortably in a plane, not even first class, with a cast on. It was uncomfortable. He was talked into going to the LA portion of the trip so that he could be out there ahead of time. He was out in LA so there wouldn't be a big rush and bustle to get him there. So I think he was out there for a good week and a half ahead of time leading into the event. So being out there, we came to follow up and to have that night. And then he was supposed to, as per Arresta's marketing department, Arista, one of the best labels and distribution companies that you can have to back you, the legendary Clive Davis, who's backed so many artists, believed in Bad Boy so much, he put together a marketing campaign that was never seen before that campaign and still wasn't seen, but it was put together so that Biggie could receive a international press junket in London with all press from around the world meeting him that Saturday, Sunday after the Friday award show night. He was supposed to go on an international flight with me. We have the itinerary still to this day. He was supposed to leave that early morning, go to London, and we would be out there for 2 or 3 days, and then he would go back to New York and go home. Diddy called Sean P. Diddy, whatever his name was during that time, called late Friday night, early Saturday morning, saying he's not going to London. Call Arista, cancel it. You go. You represent it. You go. He's not going. He wants to stay here.
Kirk Burroughs went even further, asserting that the relationship between Diddy and Biggie was nothing like the loyal bond long presented to the public. He claims they were not close at all, and that Biggie's safety was treated with alarming indifference, a portrayal that sharply undermines the carefully crafted image Diddy has promoted for decades and replaces it with a far more unsettling account of distance, power imbalance, and misplaced priorities.
Have a budget for everything that you do. The budget for Big in LA for the award show ended that Friday night, Saturday morning, when a new budget started to get him from LA to London, where he would be taken care of with security, his friends, and everyone that he wanted to be with him in the style that he was accustomed to handle the press junket. When that didn't happen, that budget was never opened. The budget for LA ended, and there was a great need for security that Saturday night, and he was out without that security. The beef up. And we lost him. And in that decision, what it put us in, that decision put us in the worst situation that we could have ever been in. We lost our number one talent. We're on a West Coast where we're surrounded by enemies who told us not to be here. We really shouldn't have been there, but we were. Now we have to get out of there. At that time, I brought most of the company with me. I had a lot of interns, young people. I had to account for them with their parents. We had to get them home. That weekend, I think we had to get Sean out first. 1, 2, 3 steps in the trunk of a car, moving out the city limits to another airport on that flight out. I stayed until Sunday-ish or so, making sure all the interns, all the executives, every last one of the kids that was out there with us was back east. And then we had to make preparations for Big's family to know where he was at, for them to make preparations to bring him back home a week or so later. So that was the job.
Adding to the weight of the controversy, Biggie's mother has publicly stated in past interviews that she suspects Diddy may have played a role in the circumstances surrounding her son's death. This deeply personal belief injects raw emotion into the long-running debate and intensifies scrutiny over events that have haunted hip-hop history for decades, further complicating Diddy's legacy with a perspective that is as painful as is unresolved.
Gene Deal.
Hey, Miss Wallace, Gene Deal.
Oh, hi, Gene. How are you?
All right, man. You know I ain't seen you since I came to your house and had that conversation with you. How you been? You all right?
I've been okay. I've been watching you on Facebook.
I'm sorry, Miss Wallace. I'm sorry I had to do what I had to do, but you know, it is what it is.
Okay. I know you do.
Thank you, Miss Wallace. Like I told people, I said if Miss Wallace would have called me and told me to shut it down, I would have shut it down. Miss Wallace ain't called. She knew how to get in touch with me. If Miss Wallace didn't tell me to shut it down, I'm going to keep doing it because I respect you, Miss Wallace.
Do what you do.
First thing I said was, Miss Wallace, if you tell me to stop, leave Puff, stop, no, I didn't say leave Puff. If you tell me to stop doing what I'm doing, I will. She said, no, G, I watch you. You keep doing it. You doing a good job. You, man, listen here. Yo, I was happier than one of them boys at a Diddy party. I was so happy, man, it was crazy. Cause this was the first time I had talked to Miss Wallace since the last time I talked to her and was telling her about Big's death.
Diddy has categorically rejected every accusation leveled against him, and those denials now stand as his primary shield. Because if even a single claim were to advance or unravel under scrutiny, it could dismantle the meticulously built public image he has spent decades shaping and protecting. exposing his legacy to a level of risk and reputational fallout that few figures of his stature ever truly face.
Greg Kading getting into what happened with Biggie. And Greg Kading alleged that Diddy wasn't helpful at all in the investigation into what happened to Biggie. We saw a lot of different records being put on the screen where it said he did not want to give any more info at this time, and this was at the hospital where Biggie passed away. And I also noticed this document that flashed on the screen that was from investigator Russell Poole. And Russell Poole said that he called Miss Wallace to update her on the investigation and that she was frustrated and angry that no one had been arrested for her son's unaliving. After bringing her up to date on the case and explaining our frustration with the lack of cooperation from Puppy Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, plus Biggie's own entourage's lack of further assistance in the investigation, Miss Wallace calmed down and understood the situation. Greg Kading said in this documentary he believed that Diddy did not cooperate with Biggie's investigation because it would have led investigators back to him with Tupac's unaliving. I always remember the saying that when you solve one of their cases, you will solve the other. And that's why I honestly can't wait.
And could this explosive documentary spark a new wave of legal challenges for Diddy? We want to hear what you think. Drop your insights, theories, and predictions in the comments, and join the conversation as this high-stakes, closely watched story continues to evolve, drawing intense attention from fans, critics, and the wider public eager to see what may unfold next.